up, Brad? Made it. What's up, Corey? What's up, Alvaro? Yeah, let's. I'm just gonna give people like 5-10 minutes, and then we can get started. What's up, Robin? Long time no see. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Wow. Is that better? Let's see. Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. Can everyone else hear me? Can you guys comment and just let me know? Cool. I think my music was just too loud. All right, for everyone that just joined, yeah, I'm giving people like 5-10 minutes, just so we get a good amount of people in there, and I'll go ahead and get started. And for anyone who doesn't make it, this is going to be recorded and posted up in the asylum afterwards. I'll also save the video, repost it to YouTube, might cut it a little bit and edit it, and then, you know, we can start using this for all the new people that join the community, and also everyone that's just trying to learn some of the fundamentals. Sean, no level up for me. I'm gonna be in the Bay Area. What's up, Borderoy? When was this group started? To be honest, I don't know. I wasn't the one that started this group. I think Mike Lee Havoc will be able to answer that. I think it was like, I want to say 3-4 years ago, but he can answer that one for you. Cool, we got 18 people. Let's give it another few minutes and we get started. All right, welcome to everyone that just joined. Like I said, just gonna give a few more minutes. I know some people are probably gonna be late. We have 20 people so far, and hopefully there's more, but if not, I mentioned it before, this stream will be saved and recorded for future use. I think it's gonna be super useful for anyone who has just joined the Impact Asylum, or is just trying to learn about impacts in general, or even those who are just having trouble with expanding some of their concepts. I think, you know, I'll talk about it later, but this is something I see a lot of, and I'm going to go over two main topics today, which I find are the major pain points for, you know, a lot of the lurkers that reached out to me, for a lot of the videos that I've been watching within the asylum, from both the amateurs, the veterans, whatever you want to call them. I see a lot of the same kind of troubles over and over, so I figured, you know, let's just sit down, talk about it, create a video out of it, and you know, make it easy and useful, and hopefully easy for you guys to understand, and maybe view the style from a different perspective as well. All right. All right. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. Cool. 25 people, good amount. So, hello everyone. So obviously most of you probably know who I am. For those that don't, and also for those that are gonna join the asylum later and maybe have no idea who I am or anyone else is, my name is Davis, also known as Skittles. Basically a while back, I made a post to all the lurkers within the asylum because I kept seeing the same 5 to 10 people posting, and that's cool, that's fine. You guys are posting some awesome stuff, but I also know that there were at least 100 other people that were just kind of sitting around liking and commenting, but I was like, where are the videos at? I want to see some more talent pop up, you know, because the more talent that pops up, the more impactors we have. The more impactors we have, the more relevant the style becomes in the broader gloving community. And you know, obviously that's very important to me because I'm one of the pioneers of the style, and you know, I want to keep it alive, and I want to keep it growing, and I want more people to get into it. I want people to appreciate it as much as we do in this community. So yeah, you know, my intention was simply to just encourage people to post up some more and engage with the community, because at the end of the day, this whole thing is community driven, and you know, it's only as strong as the amount of work that we all put in together. And obviously, as you guys know, we all trust each other in here. I never want anyone to ever be afraid to post because they don't think they're good enough. Honestly, we really don't give a shit about that. I really don't judge people on their skill level or whether they suck or not. We all suck in the beginning, and the only way to get better, and you know, that I firmly believe in, is you have to surround yourself and interact with people that you believe are better than yourself. And honestly, that's the quickest way you're gonna level up. That's the quickest way I leveled up. You know, I obviously had to teach a lot of stuff to myself, and that took, you know, 2 to 3 years. Way too long. Now you have hundreds of people out there. You have access to your favorite glovers. You can Facebook message them. You can interact with them in the community. So my point is, take advantage of this stuff. Don't be afraid to interact. You know, we're all human here. We're all friendly. If you guys ever need help, reach out to me. Reach out to the other people in the asylum that you look up to. Post up some videos. Tag us. Ask us for feedback outright. And I promise you I'll get to it at some point. It could take me a day. Could take me a week, but I promise you I will get to it and give you as much feedback as I can, and make it as useful as I can for you guys. So with that being said, why am I doing this workshop? Again, I'm trying to give as much feedback as I can to you guys, assuming I have the time. And you know, we've all heard about how friendly and helpful this community is, and so I want to continue to maintain that vibe. And open it up to as many people as possible. And I know I keep saying but I want you guys to do it too, because I'm just one person, and you know, we all love the asylum so much just because of how tight we are, and you know, we should be spreading that, and that's super important to me. Hopefully it's important to you too. So I'm gonna get into it now. Basically, while watching, so a while back, again, I made a post offering to all the lurkers out there who, you know, haven't posted, or for whatever reason, right? Some people are afraid to learn, or afraid to post because they don't think they're good enough. Some people just don't have Inova. Some people just actually aren't even interested in learning the style. They just like to watch our community interact and watch the work we put out together. So there could be a variety of reasons, but the people that I was kind of targeting here were people who were too afraid to post, because they didn't think they were good enough or didn't have the confidence, right? Because those are the people that I can help right away, right? I'm willingly putting myself out there because I have a lot of experience to help you guys gain whatever confidence or tools or resources you need to get started, learn quicker, and eventually, you know, post up some videos in the asylum, have us obviously support you, but pick them apart and make you a better glover. So that is the main reason I did that. And you know, we had, like, I think if you guys remember, I posted it, we had over 100 comments, over 100 lurkers. Awesome. Only about, not only, but let's say about 20 lurkers actually reached out to me, took me up on my deal, you know, created their 3.5 minute video, mentioned what their pain points were, introduced themselves, private messaged those things to me, to my Skittles fan page. And I literally went through each and every single one, watched the whole thing, watched a few of them multiple times, because for some of them, honestly, they're so freaking good that it was actually really hard for me to find things to pick at. But again, there's always something we can all work on. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. There's no such glover that's good at everything, I think, or maybe there is, but there's always some one little thing that we can work on in our shows. For example, mine's, I think I can work on my showmanship and musicality a little more, or at least that's what I'm truly interested in nowadays, so that's what I focus on. Anyway, so as I was watching through all these videos, there were two main things that stuck out to me as I was kind of picking them apart, figuring out what are people having trouble with, what are people not understanding, right? Because previously I was only giving feedback through comments, and a lot of times it's really hard to understand what people are saying through a comment or even visualizing it. Another reason why I'm doing this workshop. So number one being, people were constantly asking me, and also basically people are constantly asking me about how do you expand your M1 to M1 concepts. And stepping back, what does M1 mean? M1 means mode 1. So there's M1, M2, M3. Mode 1, mode 2, mode 3. Mode 1 is obviously high power on the iNova. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Forget about all the other modes for today. You know, there's no reason to try to learn all three at once. Get good at one of them, pick one, and focus on that, master it, and then move on to the next. Or at least get good enough to where you're really comfortable. The big mistake that I see right now with a lot of beginners is they try to learn everything at once. They're trying to do mode 1, mode 2, strobing concepts, all that, but they're doing a mediocre job at all of them because they're not focused on one and they're not really digging deep into the fundamentals of the M1s or the M2s or the M3s. For today's sake, I'm going to go over M1. Again, M1, high power mode. That's it. So, that's the first topic I'm going to go over. Second topic today, I'm going to go over how do you add definition and intensity to impact shows, aka showmanship, right? I see a lot of shows that feel like they're kind of just going through the motions, right? They're kind of just like doing the red here, all of a sudden they switch to the blue here, right? And it doesn't feel like, you know, basically what separates a good show from a great show, in my opinion, is you gotta be able to feel that show, right? Anyone can copy my moves, anyone can copy Havoc's moves, anyone can copy Corduroy's moves, but it doesn't always look the same. And what it boils down to is you have to have feeling behind everything you do. Everything needs to have, you know, a dramatic effect or a very intentional effect. And that's something that just comes from within. But at the same time, that's not to say that it's not something you can learn or pick up on with some practice, right? A lot of it is also a confidence thing. When you're learning, you're obviously kind of just going through step by step with a few things. And of course, it's just going to look very slow, right? And just very, you know, anticlimactic, if you want to put it that way. But obviously, with confidence over time, and as you kind of build more comfort with your flow and your style and the way you move and the way you want to present yourself and the way you want to, you know, define your moves to the other person, that basically, you know, that's when you'll really start to shine. And again, that's not something that can be taught, I feel, but that's something that takes practice. However, there are a couple guiding principles that I'll walk through today to at least help you emphasize kind of your movement and help bring that level of strong impact into your show. Lastly, the third thing we're going to talk about today, or not talk about, it's more of a Q&A and AMA. I've never really done one of these, and people like to ask a lot of questions. I obviously like to ask a lot of questions to other glovers because, you know, just regardless of our skill level, there's always something you can learn from everyone in this community. And, you know, I've learned a lot from new gen glovers, glovers that are beginners, whatever, right? Everyone has a perspective. Sometimes you won't learn anything, but the point is you got to be open to the stuff. And so anyways, I'm opening myself up to questions for you guys. Anything you want to talk about, doesn't have to be impacting related. And we'll go through that. So hello to everyone that's joined. There's 30 of you. And I'm going to just go ahead and get started right now. So sorry, and I'm looking this way because I'm actually reading through, took just some quick notes down just to make sure things are organized. But, you know, just want to make the experience good for you. First thing we're going to talk about is expansion and understanding of M1 to M1 concepts and the fundamentals behind the M1. Before we get into all the crazy moves and the concepts, I think it's really important to understand the fundamentals of clicking, because what's the basis of the whole impacting style? It's the clicking behind the thumbs, right? And so before we get into all the fanciness, let's just talk through the 3 basic clicks. I categorize them into 3. There's obviously variations of the 3, but you need to be very comfortable with these 3 clicks before you can actually move on to the next step of executing on the foundational concepts of M1. So the first click, as everyone knows, as most of you know, and if you don't, now you're going to learn, is just the simple, I'm going to call it the index click, and let's use those terms from now on so it's consistent. So the index click is literally, you're pretty much just, or whatever you want to call it, the standard click, sorry, you're clicking like this. So I'm just literally clicking against my other finger here, or you can click against your index here, if you guys can see. So that's the most basic one. That's the one that's most natural. That's the one that everyone knows, but I'm just putting it out there anyways, just so people are aware that, yes, there's more than just that one click. The other click that's very important to know is the palm click, right? So there's this, right? The palm click is you're going to just press your thumb against your palm, and that turns it on. Turns it off, turns it off. So that's the palm click. Now the third type of click, and this is a more advanced one, I don't see that many people using it, and I'm not saying that you have to, but I'm just going to lay it out there because it's something that I use. I consider it a little more advanced. You have to have a little bit more creativity in building your concepts to use it. But I want to call it the opposite hand click. So basically you're going to use your opposite hand to turn on the other thumb. So for example, if you guys know my gun move, I do this thing. My light's here. There's no way I can turn it on anywhere here. So I come in and I use this side to click it. See that? So you're using literally the opposite hand to do the clicking. And I do another one where you guys know this one. I go like this. I come around. So what I'm doing here is I am turning this light off with this hand, and I'm using the back hand of this to turn this on. So you see that? So I'm using the opposite of each hand in order to turn it on. So I'm going to do it again. So I do this, and I do both simultaneously. And that one's on, and this one is off. So those are the 3 main categories. There's your standard click, again, that's your standard click. And then there's your palm click, right? And you can also do it with closed palms, right? And then there's your opposite hand click, which you can make up moves and however you want to do them. I showed a couple examples. There's this one, right? Using the other hand. And there's this one where I go and both are on. I'm using the back hands of each. See that? So those are the 3 types of clicks. Get familiar with those. What I will say is, don't even jump into the moves. If you're a beginner, just get used to clicking. Get used to the timers. Remember, there's a 3-second timer, roughly 3 seconds, on each. For M1 to M1, you basically need to be able to milk out your moves and concepts for at least 3 seconds in order to do your mode switches. We'll talk about that in a bit. I'll go through some examples, but my point is get very, very, very familiar with the different types of clicks, because each of those clicks is the basis for some different basic concepts that I'm about to walk you through right now. So different types of thumb work concepts. And sorry if there's a lot of advanced guys watching me right now. This is very basic stuff, but I think it really helps to break this stuff down so that, you know, the newbies can understand. And also, you know, when you break it down this way, it helps you think about things at a much more detailed level. And yeah, I mean, that's always helped me, and that's how I've been able to expand my own style, is constantly breaking things down and then taking whatever pieces I need and putting them back together to rebuild something new. So next step of the M1 fundamentals is, what are the different types of thumb work concepts out there? I'm going to name off, I don't know, let's call them 5 to 10 different concepts. There's probably other ones that are left out. Don't worry about it. Just, you know, I'm showing these for example's sake. So if I left any out, sorry. The first one is one of the most basic. I'm going to call it the poke through. And now I'm going to use a lot of terminology in here that hasn't been used before, but I'm using it for the sake of kind of just standardizing the term, so that from now on, when we use it in the community, people know, you know, what the fuck we're all talking about. Because everyone uses like conjuring and high power mode and poke throughs and this and that. And, you know, if we're not using one term, it's very confusing for everyone. So first one I'm going to walk through is the poke through. Poke through is, you know, you're going to have one thumb on, and you're literally just going to poke through your other hand. And like this. You see I'm poking through there? Poking through there. You could poke through this way. You could poke through this way. You could do a lot of different things. You could poke it from back here. You could poke it this way. I don't know if that works, but my point is, you're poking through, right? Same thing here. Poking through here. You're poking through here. Poking through. Poking through. Poking through. So that's called the poke through. As you can see, I use the standard click for that one. And this other hand, what I'll say about impacts too is you should have a pretty strong understanding of basics. Basics as in, your finger roll should look clean, your whips should look clean. You know, if those don't look clean, your whole style is just not going to look good. So before even getting into impacts, my recommendation is get your finger rolls and whips down at the very least. Obviously, you can add your tuts in, or your tech in, or your liquid in, or whatever later. But, you know, worry about that stuff later. Get your basics down, and then you can start merging it, you know, with your impacts, and it'll look much cleaner. I look at impacting as almost like an add-on rather than a starting style, because we've heard in the community plenty of times before, it's like relearning gloving again. It's actually really tough to learn from the get-go unless you have a strong foundation. So anyway, sorry to go off on the side tangent. So I walked through the poke through. The second thing I'm going to walk through is the knuckle roll. Again, this is heavily reliant on strong basics, strong finger rolls. The knuckle roll, turn it on, is literally this. You're literally just going, like, it's like half a finger roll, right? A regular finger roll is like this. This is just, you're not opening all the way. You're literally just going this way, right? This way. That's your knuckle roll, okay? Get used to that. Again, all these moves, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, you know. That's the general concept. Nail these down, get used to them, make them look clean before you start trying to build sequences and combos. I can't urge you or encourage you enough to do that. There's a lot of great shows out there that clearly have strong concepts and a lot of creativity, but when it comes down to it, if they're sloppy, you know, that's not going to take you very far. And that's the truth in my eyes. So putting it out there. The next thing are disappears and reappears. So disappears and reappears are basically really snappy knuckle rolls, right? Appear, disappear, appear, disappear, appear, disappear. Same thing, right? Appear, disappear, appear, disappear, appear, disappear, right? Appear, disappear, right? You can have it like this. So that's a pretty simple one to figure out. Understand that too. Right now, again, I'm just walking through very basic fundamental M1 concepts. After this, I'm going to walk through how to string things together, how to think about it, and how to build concepts off of it. But for beginners, this is extremely, extremely important. The next thing I'm going to go through is, I'm going to call them remotes, okay? Remotes is, everyone knows what a remote control is. You're literally using a controller to control the other hand. So, for example, right? I'm basically using it to open my fingers, or same thing, right? Get used to that, because there's things you can do. You can control it like this, right? You can flip it up. Get used to those types of movements. Start thinking about, you know, how you can use that to manipulate your movements and your placements throughout your show. Let's see what else here. Catches, I'm gonna call them catches. Catches is this, you're catching it, right? You're reflecting off this hand, you're catching it. I'm gonna catch it. See that? Catch it. It's like almost like you're catching a ball, right? Someone throws a ball at you, you're gonna catch it. You're throwing yourself your light, you're gonna catch it, right? You can move it around, you can do whatever you want, catch it. Get used to that. That's another fundamental concept I would say a lot of people use. Other thing I would say is slides. I'm gonna call them slides. I don't think anyone's used this term before. If you have, awesome. But this is what I'm gonna use from now on. You guys have seen me do this move, right? I have it on the slide, right? I'm sliding it in. I'm using this hand. It's almost like a remote, but I'm sliding this in, sliding it out, sliding it in, sliding it out, sliding it in, sliding it out. Okay, that's the slide. Pretty straightforward. And then there's the trace. You know, trace has been a term that's been used since the early rave days. You're literally using your light to trace your body, right? Trace, right? Tracing here, right? Tracing here, tracing, right? You're tracing. All you're doing is tracing your body. Last one I'm going to go through, and if there's any others, you know, you guys can talk about them amongst yourselves in the community, but I think this set of, I don't know how many I just talked about, but if you're able to just understand the set of things and get comfortable with it, you'll be able to build a lot of different concepts around it. So last one is the flashlight. Corduroy actually is the one that made this one. Very popular, very effective. A flashlight is, bam, that's it. It's literally like a flashlight. Something's shining out. See that? Corduroy does this one thing where he goes like that. But basically, you're going to use your flashlight, and you can shine them at the person. I shine them at my body sometimes. What's an example? You guys have seen me do one where I go like this, and I go like this, right? You can see it on my body. And then all of a sudden, I shine it in their face, right? So that's the flashlight. Whoops, that one's on, sorry. Yeah, so those are the M1 to M1 concepts. I'm going to walk through them one more time, but super fast. The things we talked through today are for the M1 concepts so far. Poke throughs, right? Poke throughs. Walk through that, right? Poke throughs. Knuckle rolls, right? Knuckle rolls. That. Disappears, right? Disappear, reappear, disappear, reappear, disappear, reappear. Remotes, right? You could do this. You close it back up, open it, close it back up. You could do this, that. Catches, again, right? You got that. You're catching your light with your other hand, reflecting it off, catching it again, right? Catching it. It's like the thing Wong Tan used to do. Slides, again, I talked through that, right? Slide them, slide them, slide them, slide them, slide them. traces, we talked through that, right? There's this one. And then flashlights, bam. So that's pretty much what I would consider some of the very basic tools that you need to start off. These are, maybe you can consider these your separate car parts, right? We need to understand all these different parts in order to put them together later to figure out how it's going to actually work out. And again, I'm going to go back to, you know, saying it of, if you're just picking up impacting and you haven't learned any other gloving style, I highly encourage you to learn your basic finger rolls and your whips. And the reason I say this is because we use finger rolls and whips in order to transition into a lot of the basic M1s, right? So for example, finger or this reverse whip here, I'm gonna go into a click flashlight. See that? And then I'm gonna come back out, turn it off. So you need to really get used to this stuff, right? Because you're either gonna click it here or you're gonna click it here, right? And the other thing too is like when you do poke throughs, yeah, you're gonna want some clean finger rolls. So it looks like, or remotes, you're gonna want that stuff, right? You're gonna want your stuff to look clean, very important. So anyways, enough about that. I kind of given you guys the very basics of M1s, and now I'm gonna go through a couple more topics around M1. I'm gonna talk about, I call them isolations, or you know, basically the concept of isolating a hand while you're doing the work with the other hand. The intent behind this is so that your move actually looks like an impacting concept versus a mode change. And what I mean by this is, I've seen a lot of shows where, you know, people are doing things with their red and all of a sudden they just switch to their blue, right? And they think it's impacting, right? And that's just the mode switch to me. That's not impacting. You're not just switching your modes. The point of an impact is you want to use your thumbs as the characters of your main story, or those main characters of your story, and you want to make it known that these are the main characters. These, you know, these guys are the shit in your show. And you also want to make it known that, yeah, I'm fucking around with my red right now, but all of a sudden, here's a blue. You want to make that known, right? Pretend like these are your eyeballs. You want it there. You want to make it very clear that your thumbs like are the main characters. So the reason I bring this up in relation to isolations is when you're moving both hands, it's very, very distracting, right? It's like you don't know what you're supposed to look at. So when you isolate one hand and you do the work with the other hand, it makes the person follow your moving hand and focus on that a little more. Example, if I do a poke through like this, right, doesn't look very good. But if I isolate this hand and I do this, right, you can tell now what I'm trying to do exactly with my thumb light. Right? I'm not moving my right hand. Right? So that's the point of isolations, and that's one big thing that I think a lot of people can do, especially the new people, in order to actually make your concepts pop in front of the person's face, right? Instead of moving everything around, again, just one hand, right? Do all your work with one hand. See, this hand stays still while I do all the work with the other hand. So anyways, I think hopefully I got my point across about isolations, but that's basically what I've meant in the past when I've left feedback for a lot of you guys. Isolate your hands. I will say, yeah, there are some cases where you don't need to isolate your hands. Sure, you can get creative with it and create some concepts where you don't need to use hand isolations, but I would say starting off, you know, grasp that concept very well and get comfortable with it, and that's where you'll really understand from the viewer's point of view what you need to do in order to make them know that your thumbs are doing the work. The other thing I want to talk about is placement. So Placement also has to do kind of with isolations, but it's more so like when you're doing your impacts, sure, you can do a few out here and a few whatever, but let's not have it move all over the place, right? We talked about the box before. I want to call the box, I don't know, let's call it 4 inches around the person's face, whatever you want to call it, and anywhere from like maybe 8, I don't know, like 6 inches to 24 inches, so like around this. When you're doing your impacts, you always kind of want to come back to the same focal point, right? You always want to come back to their face and you pull it back, or you want to do this, right? You don't want to just do it out here and do all this stuff out here. You can, but you want to make your way back here, right? There's stuff that's like this, but then if you place it right here and you pull it back, it is actually much more impactful. I'm going to use that pun a lot, but I hope that makes sense. And placement in terms of M1 concepts, I gave you guys the basics, and it might seem super simple, but there's actually a shitload you can do with it, right? There's like your remote, you could do it here, right? You could do it this way. You could do it this way. You could do it, well that way doesn't work, but sure. My point is, as you're working through these different concepts, move them around to different places, angle your hands differently, and that's where you're really gonna start to see like, oh, that kind of looks cool, or this kind of looks cool, and you can start stringing things together from different positions. There's just all kinds of shit you can do. So anyways, hope that makes sense. Okay, last thing I want to talk about around M1 concepts, I'll just walk through a quick example of how a beginner should or can think about how they're going to build a sequence, right? So I've given you guys the tools. I've given you 8 to 10 very basic concepts of M1 stuff, right? Poke throughs, disappears, reappears, knuckle rolls. Now, how do we tie something together? I'm just going to go ahead and use one of my old sequences for example's sake, just to show you. So you start with the poke through, right? And then from here, there's a lot of things you can do, right? I can either knuckle roll it, right? Or I can disappear it, reappear it, remote it, knuckle roll it again, right? Catch, right? That's one example. I don't have, when I came through with the poke through earlier, Earlier I did a knuckle roll, right? But let's say I come back in here, I don't have to knuckle roll. What I can do is come back out and now do a different kind of click, right? The opposite hand click. And I can go slide, right? And from here, it's like, think about what you can do with this hand. I just slid it in, I can knuckle roll it, I can appear it, right? I can appear it this way, I can flashlight it, right? I can remote it back here and then slide it out. So just think of, I don't know if I explained that well, but my point is, go back and learn the very basic concepts that I just talked about. And as you're building out your sequences, stop yourself, right? Stop yourself right here. Stop yourself right here and be like, where can I go from here? And what concepts can I use to get in and out of here? Do I want to bring it back here, right? Do I want to tilt it this way? See, it's reflecting. Do I want to bring it out first, turn my hand, and then remote it? What else can you do? Do you want to tilt it this way and then slide it out? Bring it back this way, catch it. Again, my point is I'm trying to simplify it down to as simple terms as possible for you guys. And it should always go back to the 10 simple tools that I gave you guys, or the 8 or whatever. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I gave you guys 9 different examples. So it can always go back to those 9 things, but there's variables of those 9 things, right? You can do the poke through, but then all of a sudden in the poke through, do you want to move on to another one of those concepts? Do you want to do another poke through? Do you want to change the placement and then, do another concept? Do you want to do it this way? Right? Do you want to do it this way? That's the way to think about it. Stop yourself, go back to your tool set and figure out which one of these other tools can I use to get myself out of this? Can I change the way it's done, etc., etc. So hopefully that made sense for you guys. I hope that's helpful. Okay, and then if you guys have any questions, I'm actually going to save some time towards the end of this, so feel free to ask. Second topic I'm going to move on to right now is how do you add definition and intensity to your impact shows? And the reason I'm going to bring this up, again, I mentioned it earlier, is I see a lot of shows out there, whether they're copying moves or not, they lack a lot of feeling, right? Like, yeah, they just lack emotion, they lack feeling, and a big part of this style is you want it to feel very powerful, almost aggressive at the right times. So I don't know, if you imagine, if I'm just doing this, right? I'm kind of just going through the motions, you know. Didn't look like I was having fun, did it? No, I wasn't having fun doing it either. Now, where you can really bring, you know, the extra flavor out of the show, the extra level of intensity, put that signature swag in there, if you want to call it that. You know, I'm going to break this down into 3 or 4 kind of categories of what I think you can use to start off to bring more feeling to your show. So, first thing is variations in speed. Extremely important, and here's an example. I'm gonna do the move twice. One is just gonna be without feeling, and the other one I'm gonna try to add a variation in speed to bring the feeling out of that. So there's gonna be, this is the first example, okay? Okay, now I'm gonna do it again. So I hope you guys saw that, but my point is, like, when I came in with the poke through there, it was almost like I was stabbing, and as soon as I was done stabbing, I made it known that I'm doing the slow knuckle roll, and then I snap him in the face, like that. See that? Now if I'm just going like this, right, the person doesn't really get to like get hit by that red. So how did I make that happen? I varied the speed. That's one thing. The other thing is using space. Now I know we talk a lot about, yeah, stay within the box, this and that. I'm gonna go against that right now. I think there are times in the impact style where you can use where you should use the box to make certain concepts more effective, namely strobes. But honestly, there's a lot of shit that you can do with the M1s where you can actually move out here and it actually works a lot better, right? You use more space and you can see a little more. So when I say use of space, again, I'm gonna give you an example. I've seen a lot of videos where it's clear that you know how to change the modes and it's clear that you know how to do the moves, but there's no feeling because you're not using enough space. Now, example, right? I've seen people do this, okay? I'm not using any space. I'm literally just doing this, right? Think about it this way. If you want to punch someone in the face and you're only 2 inches away from their face, it's not going to be very forceful unless you're Bruce Lee. But it's not going to have that boom, you know, it's not going to have that smack in the face. So how do you smack them in the face? You need to wind up a little more. You need to be out here and you need to come in. So instead of being like this, right, you need to be like this. Out here, like that. Right? See that? I'm coming all the way back and I'm coming forward. Right? So otherwise, if I'm just doing this, it looks really weak. And I mean, the style is called impact. You want to make an impact. You want it to be powerful. You want it to be aggressive at the right times. So that's my whole point about using space. And then the last thing is body language. So, you know, this is something that you just kind of have to get comfortable with over time. Some people are better at it than others, but I can't stress enough how much body language and using your entire body helps to really emphasize your movements and the story you're trying to tell with your show and your concepts. And what I mean by this is I'm gonna do one of my I'm gonna do a sequence again twice. One is just gonna be, you know, regular one, and the other one I'm really gonna put my body into it. I hope you guys can see it, but So I'm gonna start off like this, right? Okay, that's the first one. Now I'm gonna put a lot of body into it, right? You can go like this. You see that? So I really emphasize that one. I don't know if it looks silly or not, but my point is, you know, I really put my body into it and I used it. It's almost like I'm pulling this back like a bow and I'm bringing it in and I'm throwing it in there, right? And I'm punching this up, right? You really want to just, right? Versus just like, oops, messed up there. But you guys kind of get my point. So yeah, I hope that made sense. Just put your body into it. Really make it seem like the thumbs are almost controlling you and you're forcefully just throwing things together, you know, catching things, just like smacking him down, bring him in, you know, boom. Don't just like, you know, that's boring. And so when you're able to vary your speeds, you use your space, and you really just put your body into it, right? You swing it this way, you swing it this way, you swing it this way, you throw it in. You really bring that feeling, that definition, that intensity to your show. And as long as you have it placed at the right, you know, in front of their vision, like I said, using the right isolations and whatnot, it really helps, right? Right, so I hope that made a lot of sense. But again, sorry, I keep rambling, but that's the thing that I feel that misses in a lot of shows. Again, it also comes down to a confidence thing, and confidence is only built over time with practice, with posting a lot of videos, with getting feedback, with just working really hard to level up. You kind of just you get comfortable, and it really shows. You know, you get comfortable in your own skin, and it really shows throughout your show that you're not afraid to just throw yourself out there and do shit. But beyond that, I think I gave you guys more objective examples again of using the right placement to make it feel very intentional, like using only one hand, right, to make sure that the focus is on the thumb and not on both hands. Variations in speed, because all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, it's moving fast, and it's like boom, it just freezes in front of their face, and then you smack it, and then you snap it back in. So that's another technique, is you could bring it back, you could snap it and then slow it down, or you could slow it and snap it back, right? Slow, snap, right? Just little things like that. So and again, use the space, body language, to talk through that stuff. So yeah, those are the two main topics I wanted to talk through today. I hope I was able to break it down for you guys. I know all of you guys obviously know this stuff, but I hope I was able to break it down, help you think about it differently. Obviously, this is also for the newbies, just giving them the different tools, breaking them down a little more into baby bites, so that you can get comfortable with that stuff and kind of build your own thing later. And that's pretty much it. So hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, I'm just gonna move on. I'll hang out for maybe another 15 minutes. Yeah, guys, drop your questions in the comments, and you know, I'm just here to chat, here to hang out. So or say hi to me. I haven't looked at any of the comments as I've been going through this at all, so I'm actually going to try to scroll up and see if there's any questions that I haven't been able to address yet. And for those who came in late, I see a few people. This is auto recorded, so this will be you know, posted up in the asylum. I also download it and put it onto YouTube, and share this. And I'll also, if I have time, I'll also type a lot of this stuff out, just so, you know, I know this video is long and I went off on tangents at points. I just want to make it useful for you guys. So Zachary Diaz, how do you position the button on the thumb to make it easier to switch? So I get what you're asking. I'll show you how I do it, but what I'll say is people click differently. I'll show you the different examples right now. So when I palm click, I don't know if you could see it, but my light is actually sticking like it's going beyond my thumb, right? But when I standard click, it's actually inside, right? You could see my thumb here, but it's actually like pushed in, and I click it. See? But when it's out here, I slide it back out to make it easier to click. Same thing when it's here, right? So hopefully that was helpful. The other thing that makes it easier to switch is not the position, but mod your button. I use the sticky tab mod. I triple or quadruple stack them. I forgot what I did, but yeah, I highly recommend doing it. You either do that or you try to build up thumb muscle over time. But honestly, I want to say 95% of the community mods their buttons, and you know, I actually didn't start modding my buttons until 6 months ago. I'm really glad I did. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. You know, it makes things easier. You're not cheating. Whoever says that, I don't understand that, but I don't think it's cheating. Yeah, you know, it's helped me obviously progress my style. You guys have seen my style evolve over the past 6 to 8 months. And you know, the moment I modded my buttons, it opened up a whole bucket of new concepts that I could help expand on. Is your button modded? Moses Espinosa, yes, it is modded. Like I mentioned, sticky tab method. I use triple to quadruple stack. There's obviously other methods. Use what you feel is best for you. It doesn't really matter. Let's see here. I'm gonna scroll up. Are you going to IGC from Risi Fuentes? Yes, I will be going there. I won't be competing in the main competition, but I'll be there to hang out. Obviously, I want to meet all the Glovers from around the nation. Lots of fire out there. Guys from Hawaii, Chicago, I've met before. Obviously, I want to meet like Nick Bash. We've been wanting to trade for like 2 years. I want to trade with Blitzen. We've known each other for 6 years. We're always in the same place, but we never get to trade because we're always bombarded. But that's fine. But yeah, just, you know, it's the one time of year where you actually get together with all your friends. Have a good time, and you know, it's gonna be awesome. So if you guys are going, just come up and say hi. I don't bite, you know, I do just want to hang out with you guys, so say what's up. Does impacting have to be red and blue? Question is from Robert Carlos, also known as Siki. It doesn't have to be red and blue, honestly. Like, it can be whatever you want. The only reason it's red and blue is because one of my biggest inspirations was Wong Tan back in 2008. He used reds and blues. I decided to use reds and blues. Then I figured out that when I came up with impacting, it kind of worked out because red is like fire or hell, and blue is like ice or heaven, right? They're completely opposites, and they also happen to be the two brightest bulbs, or I don't know if they still are, but they happened to be at the time, and that's just what I've stuck with. So that's why I used it. I'm sure a lot of people continue to use it because they were either inspired by me or Karma or Corduroy or whoever came after me. It's kind of just something that's carried on. It's not the law, it's not the rule. Use whatever you want. Obviously you need to use 2 different colors, but yeah, there's no rules around that. I'm scrolling up and then I'll scroll down for the other questions. Let's see. I heard from Thomas Suksumrain from Australia. So he said, I heard TNT all uses red on the left thumb. Why? Well, that's a lie because I use blue on my left thumb. So whatever you heard is false. We all use thumbs on different sides. Why do I have my red in my right and blue in my left? That's literally just that's how I set my thumbs up in the beginning, so that's what I've stuck with. There's honestly no real logic behind it. That's just what I'm used to. I've actually tried to switch them up, but it kind of mentally throws me off, so you know, I just stick with it. Let's see. Aaron Burris, what does M1 even mean? M1 just means mode 1. It's mode 1 of the iNovas, eNovas, OSMs. If you program that, it's just basically the first mode that you're going to use in order to execute on all of the concepts that I've discussed through today. And you know, I know we've never used M1s in the past, M2s, M3s. I think I'm using them now. I hope I set the trend. Let's continue to use that moving forward. The reason being, there's a lot of terminology that was thrown out before in the community, and it really does get confusing for new people when they join, right? They hear M1, they hear high power, they hear conjuring, they hear all this stuff, and and if no one is there to tell them like this is what it means, they get lost. So I'm just trying to simplify this as much as possible for the community, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So let's. I'm hoping that it'll stick. Let's see here. Sorry guys, I'm scrolling through questions here. All right, you know what? Wait, ooh, I see one. All right, Brian. Oh, you already answered that. But when I switch from M1 to M1, how do you provide that extra oomph or intensity? I talked through that. I guess you could say the 3 to 4 pillars: variations in speed, use of space, body language, placement is obviously important, and the last one, I guess there's 5. Last one is just practice. Build that confidence. Do it like you don't even think about it twice. It's just part of what you do. It's second nature, and that's when you really show that extra amount of swag. Okay, I'm gonna scroll to the bottom for the questions now. So, current inspirations from Mike Lee, aka Havoc. So surprisingly, I've mentioned this before, so maybe it's not a surprise to you guys, but none of my inspirations have ever been impactors, ever. I don't know why that is. It's honestly just despite it being my core style, and despite me running the Nova Asylum with the help of the other guys, and despite me doing this workshop, impacting itself has never been. I don't want to say it hasn't been interesting, but it hasn't been what has made me evolve as a glover. I've always looked at other styles to evolve myself, and when I go out to those other styles, I view them as other tools that I need to learn, right? Once I learn those different tools, I can bring them back into my house, and I can figure out how can I use this in my house? How can I make it my own? How can I add impacting on top of this, right? And so anyways, to answer your question, current inspirations, I would say my biggest inspiration, to be honest, right now is Stax, Jaylen Arista. You guys must know her. And the reason she's super inspiring to me is she is extremely clean, and she has very good musicality and showmanship. And I mentioned earlier in the stream that that's what I'm focused on right now. I'm trying to bring that extra level of swag and that feeling to my show. And so I watch a lot of her stuff, just to figure out like what is she doing, how does she do it, what do I need to clean up, how much space she uses, because I really like the amount of space she uses in order to really bring that level of emphasis and dramatic effect to the show. Another one to mention is Pixel, which is also Stax's friend. She is on Game Over, which is a girls crew. She is super clean, like extremely clean, and her flow is also insanely amazing. So I watch both of those two girls for the kind of swag and the cleanliness and the showmanship and musicality. The other big inspiration I have, let's call it tech and flow, is E.T. He's kind of an older cat, back from like 2000, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, whatever. But I really love how he's able to actually tell a story with like really intricate tech. Obviously he has really long fingers, so it gets really trippy, but he also has knows how to flow, because a lot of tech shows I watch, they're really cool, but after around 30 seconds I get bored, because they're literally just going through kind of the same intricate combos over and over in the same variations, but I don't see any feeling in it. I could see everything in their hands, but their body doesn't speak to me, their show doesn't speak to me. And so with E.T., he's able to blend both, really trip me the hell out, tell me a story, but also entrance me at the same time with his transitions and flow. And so those, I would say, those guys come to mind right now. Yeah, E.T., Stax, and Pixel, super big inspirations. Puppet was also a very big inspiration when I visited Hawaii. His presentation and showmanship has to be some of the best, if the best, or if not top 3 that I've ever seen. It's just very theatrical. You could see his entire body thrown into it, and it really made me think about, damn, how can I bring that level of intensity and entertainment to my show and impacts, but while still making my concepts effective, right? Making my strobes effective, making the story of my thumbs effective. So anyways, my point is, I look to non-impactors, I look to new gen. There's a lot to learn from them, to figure out, like, damn, how do they do that, and how can I apply that to my own show? So anyways, Mike, that's the answer to your question. What's the best way to impact when all you can really do is whip and roll? Well, I'm not sure I understand the question, but what I'll say is the basis of all impacting, or most impacting, is whips and rolls. So make sure you know that. All 9 of the M1 concepts that I talked about earlier actually start off from the whips and rolls. Like, you transition to them from a whip or a roll. So there's actually a shitload you can do, and I would try to go ahead and expand on that as much as possible. Go ahead and watch a bunch of the videos in Impact Asylum, but pay attention. You'll notice that most transitions come from the whip or a roll. There are guys out there, guys and girls, Mary Tippins, for example, who mixes tutting in Impact, so obviously not whips and rolls, but she has a few concepts that she uses tutting on. Super interesting stuff. Watch her, right? She's able to merge another style with impacts, which I think is super impressive. New hot one that just came out today is Megatron from Robo. He's been able to merge like insane tech and morphing, and build in some impacting stuff. It's still in the early stages, but it's new. I've never seen anyone do it, and that's the kind of stuff you want to watch to figure out, how can I expand my style. Watch that stuff, slow it down, break it apart, really understand it, and then use it for yourself. And that way, you really start building your own style. You start thinking about things differently. Moving on. Alan asks, what are your can you explain your perspective on symmetry? Man, to be honest, like, I think that's the reason I built my style on a lot of symmetry. I think that's just the way my brain works, even as a kid. Everything I've worked on, everything I do, I need it to be clean, almost OCD to an extent. Like, if it looks one way on this side, I need it to look one way on the other side. That's just the way I think about things. It comes off a lot cleaner. Obviously, one of my biggest inspirations back then was Wong Tan. His style was heavily based on symmetry, and so I really kind of tried to replicate that and make it my own. And so I didn't really walk into my style telling myself I'm gonna make everything symmetrical. It's just it came about organically and naturally. I think symmetry is obviously very helpful for you to clean up your moves on both hands and to ensure that you're comfortable doing it on both sides of the spectrum. But what I'll say is, like, you don't have to stick to that, and don't let that pigeonhole you or even like slow you down in terms of making progress in your gloving. Honestly, there's a lot of shit that I do nowadays, if you guys watch my shows, where I can only do it with my right hand. I can't do it with my left. A lot of tech I do, I can't flip it around, to be honest, I can't. And that's okay with me. I think, yeah, for some concepts and for certain people, it's important to learn it on both hands. But for me, it's not. For me, it's learn it enough to where it's comfortable and effective, and I'm happy with it, and I can expand on it and move on to the next thing. So with that said, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's literally just like, what are you looking to do in your show? And I'll say, don't let it pigeonhole you. Just get it to a point where you're happy with it, but don't get too stuck on the details where it hinders your innovation or your progress as a glover. That's my personal perspective. Jeff Wong, what are your thoughts on green and blue? I think it works for some people. It did not work for you at FNL because you're using a red and blue set with green and blue thumbs. It looked really ugly. But, I've seen it work. Mary Tippins uses green and blue, and it works really well. Again, like, it's not that I hate against any colors or think you should use anything. It's more so like, how do you build your glove set, and how does it look? Does it complement each other? Does it complement your style? There's different patterns, different colors, different whatever for every different style. It's not a one size fits all thing. So anyways, that's it. Does tech fit into impacting? Absolutely. I mentioned Megatron. Go watch his video. He literally just posted it like 3 hours ago. It's a complete beast. Text morphs, some cool impacting concepts in there. I use a little bit of tech. I don't want to say I necessarily blend it with impacting, but I use it to build up my show. I think it can all work. I just think it's a matter of someone actually doing it and making it work. And because impacting is actually a smaller style, and I want to say like, because there's so few people in the community, it's going to take longer to grow because there's not as many people pushing it as there is for tech or tuts or flow, right? But yes, I think it does fit into impacting. Noel says, holy shit, you click on different parts of your thumb. Yes, I do. You can rewind the video after, but there's 3 types of clicks. There's your standard, there's your palm, and there's your opposite hand. Maybe there's more, but those are the 3 main categories. Good impact colors besides red and blue. I've seen blue and yellow work. Paranormal. If you guys don't know who he is, he's an old school, pretty old school, 2010 to 2012 impactor. His transitions are really crazy. Go check him out. He's on TNT. Old videos. He used yellow and blue. Worked really well. It looks really pretty. Starlight, sorry Isaac, also uses blue and yellow. Looks good. Blue and green, like I mentioned. I've seen Corduroy use it. I've seen Mary Tippins use it. I've seen a few other people use it. Blue and pink, Mystique uses that. Looks really good. Like I said, I think it can all work. You just have to make it complement your glove set, at least for me. Use whatever you want. Victor Lee, how often do you practice now? Every day. I've been practicing every single day for the past 8 years. Even when I quit gloving, I couldn't stop playing with my hands. You know, sitting on the bus, sitting in the car, eating dinner, sitting wherever, you know, sitting at a music festival, sitting at my desk here, just chatting with my friends, talking to my parents, whatever. My fingers are always moving. So I casually practice in that sense. Now, how often do I actually sit down and build out concepts? I want to say about 2 to 3 times a week. I actually sit down, shut everything off, full focus is just straight up gloving, and I figure out, can I create something new today? It's either can I create something new in terms of concepts or a new video idea or learning a new concept such as platforming. That's what I've been messing around with lately. Tech. I guess that's a form of platforming, or a form of tech too. Platforming. What else? Yeah, I mean, you know, I play with my hands every day, but I actually actively innovate and try to innovate 2 to 3 times a week. Robert Carlos, aka Sicky, asks, who are some underdogs to be on the lookout for? Well, underdogs, I don't know how you want to define that, but you know, I don't consider these people underdogs anymore. Mary Tippins, who is Lust, she's big in the general gloving scene for her tuts, but in the impact scene, she's awesome. Very nice person. Merged tuts with impacts. I think it's great, truly innovative, got out of the conventional ways. You know, we gotta step away from those things once in a while to build new things and to really continue this. Miles Line, one of my favorites right now, or he has been actually since the beginning. Even when he was just new, I could see the potential. Storytelling is just through the roof, extremely clean. Even, you know, yeah, just very clean, the way he thinks about impacting is really awesome. It's very close to the way I think about it. You know, it's one thing to copy moves and execute it, but it's another thing to really watch a show, pick it apart, analyze it, and, you know, explain that to someone else in a way that they understand it differently and use it to their benefit. Like, that's a different skill set. That's not a gloving skill set necessarily, but that's just almost like a problem solving or a critical thinking, you know, ability. And I think Miles has that. him, he's actually one of the two people who's ever been able to pick apart my strobe moves and explain them back to me in a way that I think about them. The first one being Scott Slander, aka Immortal. But yeah, him and Scott, they're the only two that have really, like, you know, I've been able to actually talk through impacting with at as deep of a level as I think about it, right? Who else? I mentioned Lust, I mentioned Alchemist. Man, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think through that one. Maybe we could make a different post about that. Oh, I know, Zero, Justin Lee on Nameless. I don't want to call them an underdog. All these people I don't want to call underdogs just because they are coming in hot. They're making a name for themselves in the Impact Asylum, and you know, it's amazing. Oh, one big one, Arthur Quack. He's been gloving for less than a year, impacting for less than a few months or whatever. But you guys saw his show. You know, he got like 50 likes. Not that I think you should measure things on likes, but I think the fact that that many people gave him recognition in the community for the short amount of time he's been gloving is very impressive. He executes really well, so I gave him a ton of feedback on how to get better, and he took it, he ran with it, and within the next video I saw results. So you know, he's incredible. So watch him. I'm going to be very curious to see if he can take it to the next level and innovate and now make it his own and build things for himself. The other one is oh yeah, this the other one video that got hot was Francis Keto. Basically, like yeah, obviously his show is almost like a mirror image of Corduroy's. I've never seen anyone be able to copy Corduroy's flow like that. You know, Corduroy's flow looks very simple, but it's the hardest thing in the world to actually imitate because it's just so damn precise and so snappy. And so Keto, Francis, or Ajax, I think, yeah, Ajax is his name, was able to replicate that. So same thing, same situation with Quack. I would say I'm very impressed with his execution, but I think to get to the next level, I'm very curious to see if he can make it his own and really just make a name for himself without being shadowed by the Corduroy influence. But I think strong foundations for both of those guys. What do you think about palms? Pros and cons. I used to use palms back in the day. I don't anymore. I used to use middles back in the day too. Not anymore. Palms are cool. I mean, you know, Corduroy uses them. I know a few others use them. If you can make them work for your style, you can make them work. I personally do not use them because, and I'm going to say this, some people might upset some people may not agree, but I think it's a little bit too overpowering with when you're strobing, or it actually not overpowering, it actually takes away from the strobes, especially the way that I do strobes, because it's too distracting, right? When I'm just trying to have you focus on the details of my thumb work, like when I'm like doing small things like this, I don't want like my palm lights to distract your vision to go anywhere else. I want you to look at what I'm trying to get you to look at. And so with the palm lights, I think they take away from the effectiveness of the strobes and from the focus of the strobes for my style. So like I said, you know, it works for Corduroy style, so he should use it, or he can use it, and he does. But for you guys too, like, there's no right or wrong way to do it. If you can make it work with your style and you can make and still have it be effective, I encourage you to do it. My personal preference, I don't use it. So those are the pros and cons. It brings extra strobe factor to your show if that's what you're looking for. But the con for my style specifically is it can become a little too distracting. And it makes my gloves too heavy. I don't feel like carrying shit around. I don't feel like replacing batteries on those things. I'm more of a simple, minimal kind of guy, so I just keep it super simple. All 8 fingers are the same, red and blue. That's it. Can you use, so Chuck Willie asked, can you use different chips to mimic an iNova for impacting? Yeah, you can. eNovas are out there. They actually work really well. You know, they're not as bright, but honestly, man, who cares? Because most of the shows that we're throwing and that we're trying to get feedback on are online. So unless you're going out to an event, you don't need to worry about having the brightest thumbs. I can still give you critique. Mike Lee can still give you critique. Miles can give you critique. Anyone else in the community can still give you critique on your technique to make you become a better glover and a better impactor. So don't think that you need Innovas. You can use Enovas, OSMs. I've never used them, but I heard you can actually program the Inova functionality into it. And I'm sure there's others, but yeah, you can use other chips. Go ahead and use them. Alvaro Perez, I forgot what his glover name was, but check him out. He uses Enovas, and dude, he rocks them, and no one could even tell that he's using Enovas. So, you know, that just goes to show you, just use it, handle it, make it look good, and you're good to go. Let's see. Robert Anthony Relantes asks, how dark do you like your techno? Well, I like all types of techno. So when I like my techno, you know, I like the groovy kind, I like the melodic kind, I like it dark. Depends on my mood, to be honest. But if you guys have seen my videos, past 2 or 3 releases, I've actually been using darker tracks. And the reason I do that is because, like, when I listen to dark tracks, dark techno, it puts me in this mindset, and it might sound corny, but like, it puts me in this dark, ominous mindset of I basically just want to just like kill the show and make it like a slow murder, right? And just make it really intense. And that's the mood that I get put in with techno. Is it just throws me in this mindset and gets me into that show, and that's what you guys are seeing. So that's kind of the power of you know, what the music can do for your show. Bobby Martinez asks, do we get a light show now? No, I'm not going to do a light show for this one, but don't worry. I actually will be releasing one in the next... I don't want to tie myself to any timelines, but let's just call it the next maybe 3 weeks. I'll be releasing a new one. So yeah, right now I just kind of want to use this to answer questions, help the community out with actual techniques. There's plenty of shows you guys can watch out there of me. Let's see. Aaron Burr, should I not have my thumbs the same colors as my fingers? I've never done that before. It's okay to have them. I mean, you watch a lot of the TNT members, they use red and blue based colors here, red and blue thumbs. It works. Mystique uses pink and blue based here, pink and blue thumbs. Lust uses green, blue based here, green, blue thumbs. Use whatever you want. I kind of lately I've been using completely different colors because I want my thumbs to really pop. So if they're red and blue here, yeah, they'll still pop here, but I want them to pop more. So in one of my old shows, I use all white strobies. You know, basically like it's just all white, but all of a sudden when the red and blue pops, you know it's red and blue and it just hits. Let's see here. Miles Line, who have you given your best ever show to? Who tasted the rainbow the hardest? Oh man, man, that's hard. So I will say, when I was in Dream State, New York on day 1, that was one of the most comfortable times I've ever felt giving shows. Everything just fell in place, everything worked. The other time was actually this weekend. You guys might know Spencer Carey. Used to go by Road Rager. He just goes by Spencer now. Spencer, SPENSIR. I gave him a show on the second night. And I want to say it was called a Rabbit Hole style show. Rabbit Hole is basically, if you guys don't know, it's basically a after-hour style show. It's a show that you only pull out when all the circumstances are right. And the circumstances were right this time. It was because I gave him a show the night before, so I didn't want to give him, you know, another show with even similar concepts. So I was in the mood to just, you know, basically fuck around and be experimental. And the music was actually banging too. There was some banging techno going on. So I just told him, hey, sit down. I'm going to give you a different kind of show right now. I gave him a full-on strobe show, you know, experimented with a ton of different strobe concepts, super detailed, super speed controlled. You know, I was basically trying to destroy him. You know, I took him on a journey, and it felt good because I've given less than 5 of those types of shows in my life. You know, and like I said, the circumstances just have to align, and I have to voluntarily want to do it. And he happened to get one of those shows, and, you know, I was happy about it. So Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Who tasted the rainbow the hardest? I don't remember. There's a lot of people who, I've had a couple people cry. I've had people fall back. I've had people throw up. I've had other people obviously get very excited. I mean, I've had a lot of different reactions, so I can't pinpoint one. When can we expect the Skittles and Spencer collab? I don't know, man. Whenever I see the guy again, it's collabs they just need to happen, you know. Um, Brian Miranda. Oh, let's see. Yeah, Brian asks, "Up with Ultra presents Skittles." So, I don't know if you guys all follow me on Instagram, but I posted something. I'm basically partnering with Ultra Music Records. Ultra as in the people who do Ultra Music Festival. They reached out to me asking to partner with me to do some collaborations. I can't talk through details right now, but let's just say I think this is something I have to do. It's my whole point of being a part of this community right now. My main goal is to just spread gloving and impacts as far and wide as possible. That's super important to me because if you think about it, we're all driven by this community. We love how beautiful this community is and all of our friends in here are. And I want to keep it alive, right? Because the reality is some people are going to fall off. Some people are going to stop gloving. Some people are going to stop coming to the asylum. And, the only way to stop that from happening is to fill it with more people. And so my goal is, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to help you guys get more interested in the style and get hooked on it and just help others the same way I'm trying to help you guys, right? Let's spread the positive vibes. Back to Ultra, I think it's a great opportunity to just get in front of millions of people. Get impacts in front of millions of people. We always see the other styles get tons of recognition, right? And it's not that it bothered me that we didn't get it before, but it's like, damn, if we get the chance to show impacting off to the world that doesn't know what gloving is, or glovers that don't even know what impacting is, I'm gonna take it, right? This is not for me. This is for the community. This is for you guys, and because the longer this stays awake or alive, the longer we're gonna be happy about it. The longer we're gonna stay engaged with this stuff and get something out of it. So, anyways, you'll hear more from me. I don't know when, maybe 2-3 weeks. More details about my collaboration with Ultra, but this is also huge because, as you guys know, gloving is banned at festivals. So the fact that a festival, one of the biggest festival promoters in the world, reached out to me to collab with them and are willing to promote me on all of their their Instagram, their Facebook. It has 2.4 million people on their Facebook. Like, this is huge. This is huge for gloving. This is huge for impacting. I really don't care about the fame for me. This is literally like, I just want this shit to get bigger so that we can all be happy. And that's it. All right, moving on. Aaron Burr says, is musicality or showmanship more important when working with impacts? I don't think one is more important than the other. I think they both have their pros and cons. I mean, not pros and cons. They both have their importance in the show. I mean, musicality is the way that you flow with the song and that you tell the story with the song. Showmanship is the energy that you put into the song. Are you having fun with it? Are you being aggressive enough with it at the right times? Like, they're two completely different things, and I can't choose one over the other. They're equally important. Now, which one should you work on first? I think musicality is important to work on first. Reason being, I think showmanship is something that can come naturally with confidence and practice over time. But with that said, you can totally practice both. But anyways, Robert Carlos, do you think there should be more impact doubles? Hopefully more people to innovate the aspect of impacts and really push it to that next level. And if so, who's some doubles you'd like to see that have complementing styles? Do I think there should be more impacting doubles? Sure. I mean, be my guest. I would love to see it. There's not a lot of it. Reason being, I'm sure it's just hard to meet up with people. But yeah, like, let's get together, throw some doubles. There's a lot to be done. I have a shitload of ideas in my head that I've always wanted to execute on, but I don't hang out with another glover every day, and I'm more, most of the time I'm focused on building on my own concept. So it's more of a time and focus and dedication thing to build out those doubles, but I think it can be done. It would be great to see it be done. I think the folks from Australia put out a really cool triple a few weeks ago, so they kind of showed like, whoa, it can actually look really cool. So hey, whoever wants to expand on it, go for it. Let's see. Favorite Impact show of all time? Jesus. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna choose one. This is so freaking hard. Favorite? I'm gonna go with Corduroy's Future State of Egypt. I think it was 400. I might be wrong. It's from August 2015. I know everyone went crazy over his Dream State San Francisco one to, I think it was Sandstorm, but I think the other video didn't get a lot of attention, but that one, he pulled out all the stops. He pulled out all the freaking concepts you could think of. Precision, musicality, everything was just aligned. And I think that's one of the best, like, executed live videos out there. I think one of, there's a few others, I'll just mention them. There's Fry's. It's not an event show. It's at the Amazing headquarters. It's one of the higher quality shows. I forgot. It's the Fry Walker. I don't remember what it was, but it's the one everyone always talks about. That one is super amazing too. And then the other one is super old school, is Wong Tan's How Sweet It Is 2009 video. At the time, it wasn't even called Impacting. He literally did one concept in there, but that one concept is what started it. It's what really made me think, fuck, I need to figure out how he did that, and I need to blow it up, and I need to make my own concepts off of it. And so I'll say that's probably my favorite one, because I have a soft spot for that one. That's the one that blew my mind after my first time giving light shows. And then Corduroy's for just like being straight up just raw, like all time, like that's you can watch that 2-3 years from now and just still no one could replicate that. Where do you see gloving in 5 or 10 years? Curious what you see in the future. Where do I see it? Honestly, I see it everywhere. It's growing. It's not where I want it to be. It's not where a lot of us want it to be. I think, for lack of better terms, I want it to become a little bit more commercial. And when I say commercial, what I mean is, I just want more non-glovers to understand what it is. I want people to look at it in the streets and not blink twice about it. They just know what it is. Like you see someone skateboarding, you see someone playing with the yo-yo, you see someone, I don't know, you see someone just doing all these other things, right? I want gloving to be as widely accepted as those types of things. Because once it's widely accepted as those things, people won't view it or perceive it as drug paraphernalia or a fire hazard anymore, right? Because we're not freaking criminals. We're just playing with our lights, and we're trying to be artistic about it, right? And so yeah, that's where I want it to be. I just want it to be accepted. I want to take it to a festival without having to crotch it every time, and I want to be able to give a light show out in public without other people like staring at me like I'm weird. Not that I care, but still, it would just be nice to know, hey, like, I can do this anywhere and it's cool. No one cares, or no one thinks twice about it anymore. And so and I see it going that direction. It's becoming legitimized more and more now. There's IGC, there's a lot of boss competitions, there's a standardized format for these competitions, there's community meetups that are just straight up for gloving. You don't have to go to a rave anymore. Not that you could, they're all banned there, but there's actually meetups for gloving now. There's GGN communities, there's communities now. There's this, we're sitting right here online. We don't even go to events together anymore. I'm talking to you guys through a screen right now. Like, the fact that it's even come this far is amazing, and I wanted to continue this type of momentum and progression, because it's only upwards from here. And the more eyeballs we get on gloving, the more love I get, the more love you get, the more love Impacts gets, and that's what it deserves. We've been putting in a shitload of hard work into this thing, and I think you guys and everyone else deserves the recognition that comes out of it. So that's my perspective. Let's see here. An estimate of when the new Amazing Impact light will come out. So what he's talking about is the prototype of like the iNova. I was able to play with it a couple months ago. It's still in prototype mode, but the prototype was really awesome. In terms of the release date, You know, to be honest, we have to be realistic here. Right now, Amazing is working on other projects. They're trying to release their new Bluetooth Lite. Um, you know, they're trying to release other products, and those take priority over the Inova. I mean, the reality is, you look at Impact Asylum, there's only 1,500 members, and not all 1,500 members are going to buy this light, you know? So the fact of the matter is, they need enough people to buy this thing so that they at least break even. It costs a lot of money, you know, I don't know, $10,000 to even create a batch of these things. And if they don't make their money back, it doesn't make any sense. So with that said, it's not a priority for them right now. You know, I'm very good friends with Brian. I work very closely with him on this light. You know, I'm constantly discussing this with him, but you know, I also get the business side of things. It's a supply and demand thing. You know, if the demand's not there, it doesn't make sense for him to supply it. It doesn't make sense for him to put all of his workers and engineers to build something that no one's gonna buy, or not a big amount of people are gonna buy, right? So anyways, with that said, they're focused on the Bluetooth Lite, which is supposedly getting a sneak peek, I think, this Friday. And then I don't know what else they're working on, but I'll circle back with Brian, and you know, I'll stay on top of it. But like I said, let's be realistic here. I don't think it's gonna come out for a few more months. Yeah. Let's see, more questions. Do you think Wong Tan will ever come back? Nope. He won't. I mean, he gloves just for fun. You know, he's not interested in, you know, progressing as a glover. He's literally a raver that likes playing with gloves. Let's call it that. You know, he's not. You know, he's older now. He's trying to adult with his life, and gloving's not a priority, and that's okay. Brian Miranda asks, "What's your best show?" So there's a couple. There's the one that everyone and myself considers one of my best shows of all time. That's the Beyond Wonderland 2010 show. That's the one where I'm giving it to Nick Sentience's Stimuli. It's a Psytrance track. I think everyone knows that show. Yeah, had to be one of my best shows of all time. And I think, honestly, that one goes down in the history books. In terms of my other favorite shows, I would say recently, I would say my latest one, it's the 6-minute show that I'm giving to Loco and Jam's remix of Flash by Green Velvet. It's 6 minutes long. It's freaking long, and I always say I hate long light shows, but I'm really proud of it just because, you know, I really felt the song, and I was able to milk the entire song in its entirety and tell a full story out of it. The song forced me to really work on my speed control, my storytelling. You know, it just basically really forced me to tap into aspects of my gloving that I personally feel are very weak. So it was a challenge, and yeah, I really like that one for that reason. You know, it's something that I worked hard on and that I'm proud of. Versus shows that I forced. You know, to be honest, back in 2011 and 12, I was forcing all my shows. I hated gloving at the time, you know, and it sucks when you're forcing things because it feels like a job. And now I don't feel like it's a job anymore. Now I'm just doing whatever the fuck I want. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, oh well. You know, it's, as an artist, I need to do what fulfills me. Hope that you guys like it and support it, and that's just the direction I'm going to move in. So that's it. Who's your best hype man? Jesus, go back to Beyond Wonderland 2010 and watch that. I have a couple hype men in there, and you know, I got to give credit to them. They made the video that much more epic. So check it out. Who do you want to see step up and take some spots in Dream Team 2? Man, there's a lot now, you know. I think Megatron should step in there, but with the impacts this time. I think Quack, with a little more practice, can step in there. I think Ajax can step in there, because, you know, he can sub for Corduroy, no problem. Who else? I think Mary Tippins, Lust, should step in. Who else is fire right now? I'm trying to choose people who weren't in the first one. I don't know, a few of the lurkers, sorry, I forgot your names, there's a lot of names floating, but there's some of the lurkers that are actually really clean, and I think would be interesting to be thrown in that pool. I think, what is it, John Ong, Fade, I think he can be thrown in there too. Tony Nguyen, who is John's friend, we haven't seen a video of him for months, but the ones he did put out were super awesome, so if he's able to continue that type of progress, you know, into the competition, I think he's definitely going to be able to, you know, put up a good fight. I think, I don't know. Yeah, those are some of the names. We'll see. I'm not going to hold another one for a while. I want to let the other competitions run. I also want, my focus right now is on helping the community. That's why I'm doing this, helping the lurkers get more comfortable, giving you guys the feedback and tools that you guys need to get better, because once that happens and more beasts come about, that just makes Dream Team that much more fun to watch, right? You know, before, in my mind, there's only maybe like 8 to 10 insanely good impactors, but that gets boring watching over and over, to be honest. You know, like, I want some new guys to come in. I want some new guys to come in to give my guys a run for their money, because that's what pushes the style. That's what keeps it interesting, you know? Like, I just want people to get better, so that's it. Any news about when Impact comp will start? I don't know, Thomas. I know Mike Lee is throwing the East versus West, so he might be... Oh, yeah, he answered it for you, so he said soon. Any more questions? Yeah, I think I've run down to the last questions, so... Whoa, that was an hour and a half of a stream. That's a hell of a long stream. Yeah, so, hey, I want to thank you guys for showing up. I hope you guys really enjoyed, you know, what I was able to discuss today. I hope it was helpful, whether you're new or you're older or you're a veteran or whatever. If you're new, I hope it helped. You know, I hope I helped break things apart so that you can understand it easier and take the things you need to use them for whatever you're trying to achieve at this point. And for the new people, or for the veterans, I hope I was able to possibly bring a different perspective or a new perspective to the M1 concepts and to the showmanship side of things. And I hope the AMA and the Q&A was actually really interesting for you guys. You know, you guys don't just have to talk to me through this stream. I'm super friendly, I promise. If you guys ever want to just chat it up, don't be afraid. I'm just one message away, so just direct message me and I'll answer when I can. I can't guarantee that I can hold a conversation with you right away or all day long, but I do get back to all the messages. So yeah, with that said, thanks a lot, and I'll post this up. Peace.